We are live. Welcome to another Cleverly Changing podcast. We are doing a live series. So, all the way up until August 6th, I'll be going live from Sunday through Thursday, talking about homeschooling, distance learning, teaching our kids. The Cleverly Changing podcast isn't only for parents who homeschool, but it is also for parents who want to supplement their child's education. So, I am the mom behind the blog cleverlychanging.com. I am a mom of twins. They are 11.
Oh,
It
wow.
is boggling to me that my kids are 11 now. When I started blogging, I was still nursing them, and it was really my outlet to talk about parenting. And so we've come all the way full circle. I'm a homeschool mom, and I want to share my experiences with other people. Today, we have a special guest, and I'm very excited about our guest. This is Marcia Hamilton, and she is an educator. And whenever I've needed some extra help, because listen, homeschooling is not always easy, even when you've been doing it a while. And whenever I
Yes.
just feel like, whoo, I've had it. I often reach out to Marcia, and she's always full of encouraging words and just positivity. And so that is someone that I really like to have in my circles. And so today I am sharing my friend with you guys. So, Marcia, can you tell everybody a little bit about you?
Sure. Thank you for that wonderful little misty-eyed introduction. Very flattering. My name is Marcia Hamilton. I currently I have been a public school educator my entire career. I started teaching way back in the late 1900s. So I am entering I think my 24th year of public education. I'm not really quick with the math. I currently work for a large school system in Maryland. I am the mother of two girls. They are 21 and 14. I am not a homeschooler. I did not choose to homeschool my children. They are products of traditional, rather public and or private Christian education. So I'm just happy to share. I'm not an expert, but I'm happy to share whenever I can be encouraging or lend a helping hand. You have my two hands and my willing heart.
Yes, and you say that so casually, but you are really phenomenal in the way that you help people navigate.
Yeah.
And I just think, you're very humble about it, but you're phenomenal in what you do. And I think it really takes educators like you who are fully dedicated and passionate
Hmm.
about the work that they do. And so
Yeah.
as a mom, from one mom to another, I have appreciated the expertise and just what you give to the community, because you're
Oh,
always giving back and always helping others. And I appreciate that about you. So
thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Now, so today, you know, when COVID hit, parents were
Hmm.
really scrambling because we were
Yeah.
told, I remember that day like it was yesterday, because my
March
kids had
13th.
yes,
March
March
13th.
13th, there was an announcement that went out. And for me, even though I'm a homeschooler,
Hmm.
in March, I had actually put my kids at the beginning of last school year, I had put them into a co op. So they were going to
Okay.
co op 3 days a week. So
Okay.
I was like, this is going to be the year that I put my kids in a traditional school.
Right.
And obviously, that's not
Right.
happening.
Not at all.
you
Not at
know,
all.
the whole view of traditional school has just changed. It's only
Absolutely.
been a couple of months, but the whole just atmosphere is just
Sure.
completely different. And
Sure.
I think there is a different calling for parents now.
Hmm.
And for me, because I have been a homeschooler, it's like I think the transition is a little bit easier because my mind
Yeah.
has been there before. But for
Absolutely.
parents who have never even thought about it, it's like, I didn't sign up for this. And
Right.
they are internally panicking. And so
Right.
with these conversations, I'm like, look, you don't have to panic, because
Right.
all of us homeschoolers, we weren't always like, oh, I love homeschooling.
Right.
I definitely wasn't that parent. I was
Right.
dedicated to keeping my kids healthy. And that's really
Absolutely.
what brought me
Yep.
to homeschooling.
Okay.
And I think that's what really gives me a sense of compassion to where
Okay.
parents are right now, and
Yeah.
why I think these conversations are just important,
Yeah.
because we know what you're going through. And as an educator, I know you've never seen anything like this. You just
Not at
said,
all.
like, you
Not
said
at all.
you have been doing this for 24 years,
Mm-hmm.
and this is a first.
This is unprecedented. You hate to keep hearing the word and using it, but there's no other adjective to describe it. Exactly what you were saying. Like, parents are in a frenzy. They've been thrown into this thing. Exact same thing for the educators. I know, for my experience, when the governor made that announcement on March 13th at 4 o'clock, I was in the middle of bus duty, and we were loading buses, and someone came over the walkie, like, governor just closed the school for the next 2 weeks. And we're like, what? Like, what is happening? What are you talking about? What are you talking about? So we do have televisions in our school. So someone turned the TV on in the office, and we're just like, what is happening? And so from 4 o'clock, the end of the day, up until the next day, for the next school day, teachers were given the charge to prepare 2 weeks worth of at-home lessons and learning activities for students. So scramble, scramble, scramble. Our CEO led a town hall call that evening to kind of. She's like, "Hey, when you found out at 4 o'clock, I did too." So it was like no one really had a plan for this. Teachers so we spent 2 weeks at home, and then 2 weeks turned into 4, and then 4 weeks turned into 6, and then it was just like, what is going on? So we had no plans, like no nothing. Kids went home without books. Teachers went home without instructional materials, nothing. Most of the teachers are assigned laptops. So at best, you had your laptop computer, and you had a pack of markers and maybe some chart paper. and that was it. But in terms of building skill sets for like distance learning and learning all of these like Nearpod, Google Chrome, Zoom, like, because working face to face, like that's what we do. That's our experience. And so, parents are like, oh, now I got to homeschool. And I'm like, we're still not even homeschooling. So most teachers aren't even saying, well, now I have to homeschool. What we're doing is, we are distance learning. We are teaching from home. And so that is the mind shift that has to take place, even with teachers. We are teaching from home. The expectation that parents have on teachers, not that it's misplaced, but I think there's a learning curve for all of us. And, it's difficult to teach a 6-year-old addition and subtraction when, like virtually. It's like it's a whole nother realm for teachers. And so I tip my hat off to the homeschool parents who have, you've taken on this, this responsibility and this charge to say, I am the primary educator for my child, for my children. We're going to do this at home. Teachers are just kind of like, we're not interested in homeschool, and we're also not. I think when parents say like, well, I need my teachers to do more, and we're like, yeah, we want to be able to do more, but we're functioning and operating under just limitations. We're in a better position, I think, now that we know we'll be distance learning. My particular school district will be distance learning through the end of January, and so for the teachers, so now we kind of have time to figure some of these things out. I know I'm really big on building my own personal professional capacity, because I'd much rather talk to a person than to talk to a computer or talk through a computer. It's just easier that way. it's the relational kind of thing, like, but I spent my summer like doing free webinars, building my capacity around the Google and what's on the internet and all of these different resources. So now I'm thinking like, okay, well, this is what it's like. I would assume for a homeschool family who's like, hey, I got to find a way or make one, kind of thing. I feel the same way about the approach to distance learning.
Yes, I think what you just described, we got to take a minute and unpack that for people because there is a difference between
Absolutely.
homeschooling and distance learning. And
Absolutely.
I think you touched on it perfectly. So we want to just clarify some things. First of all, homeschooling means that the parent is primarily responsible for that child's complete education. So for me as a homeschooler, my kids can take classes in other places and have other tutors or teachers and things like that. That doesn't mean I'm teaching every single subject, but it does mean that I'm responsible. So when it comes time in my state of Maryland, I have to have a portfolio. When it comes time for my portfolio review, they're not going to say, well, I can't say, well, they're, what? PE teacher decided not to come this month, so we just didn't do it. They're going to be like, well, you're the teacher. It's your responsibility to make sure that is taken care of. And so with distance learning, the parent is not the primary teacher.
They're not.
The primary responsibility is still on the school system, whether you're in public school or private school. That primary responsibility still lies on the teacher. So the state isn't going to come to the parent and say, hey, what was going on with your child's education? Now, the teacher can say, why wasn't your child on the Zoom calls? But but that's because the teacher is the one who's responsible. So they may ask you as a parent to help partner with them to make sure your child is doing what they're supposed to, but it's more of a partnership. Where homeschooling, it's all on you, boo. Like
all on you. And so then the same thing, like I think, the partnership, that's the key right there. It's just very interesting, to kind of read stuff on Facebook, and I try to monitor that because sometimes it gets a little irritating, and I don't like to hear people complain. So I'm like, okay, like people, oh, join this group. Nope, don't want to hear it. But I think I like no, not at all interested. It's interesting to see the developing understanding. I think in some cohorts, the role of public education. Parents are like, what about childcare? Hello, public schools are not responsible for childcare. It just so happens that our schedules are similar to your work schedule, but public schools are not instituted. They're not set up and instituted for childcare. That's not what we do. So I understand that. I also, I think moving forward also as teachers, because we were kind of thrown in this from like April through June, really, the expectations for teachers are going to be different. I know whatever happened went down between March and June left a very bad taste in some people's mouths, just because but it spoke to the disparities and just the some of the inequities in particular schools. My school was fortunate enough to, in terms of just technology equipment, we are almost one-to-one with devices in our building. But my administrator has worked very hard over the last 7, 8, 9 years, purchasing equipment, Chromebooks, every year to push us towards one-to-one devices. So I think the day for device distribution, we distributed almost 400 Chromebooks. But then you may have a school who only has 200 Chromebooks, and they had a population of 400, 500 kids, students, because they shared just different plans. So schools, the inequity in schools really spoke to the variances and the levels of what actually was offered in terms of teaching and learning experiences from March to June. The school system has moved for, I believe they use some of the CARES fund, the COVID relief fund, to purchase devices for all students. So from my understanding, We are a school system of I think 60,000 plus students, and they're one-to-one with the devices. So that takes care of that. In terms of equity and access, internet access, they're working on all of those things. But then even for teachers, teachers are like, I don't have broadband, high speed
Internet.
Wi-Fi. I don't
Yeah.
have that at my house. How can I deliver my instructions? And so to kind of avoid that too, or address that, we have the option at the beginning of the school year. We have the option to either teach from home or to teach from school, to teach from your work location. I think the curriculums are being designed to kind of do a little bit of makeup with some of the missed skills, some of the lost learning time that took place at the end of the school year. But, we have to abide by the law, and, we have to have school. The kids have to have a certain number of seat hours. We have to take attendance. Like, there are things that we just have to do. And so the adjustment, it comes from all of us. And the partnership really with the parents is going to be essential. I think for parents who are frustrated, and who are just like, it's like six in one hand, half a dozen in the other. Like, we'd have a whole set of people or different levels, sets of complaints if we opened school or if we went through distance learning. I appreciate, I'm not asking anyone else to, but I appreciate the fact that that our district leader came out of gate like, this is what we're going to do. We're doing this from August 31st, first day of school, till January 29th or whenever it is. The first semester, the first 2 quarters. So we have a plan for that. Transportation is an issue, like all of these other things that kind of come into play. So I think this is the best plan for parents who are who are still working from home and trying to manage. I guess I would just kind of say to them, like, this is a growing area for all of us. No one's ever experienced this. But keep the lines of communication open and don't make assumptions. Ask questions. Questions are a lot easier to answer than responding to assumptions. The school day will be longer. Students will not be sitting in front of devices, for 5 and 6 hours out of the day. Like, we're not monsters. We understand developmentally appropriate practices, what's feasible. I mean, it's just like, I was talking to one of my colleagues this morning, one of teacher friend about it. And I was like, so I'm an expert in this. Like, I will owe Stanley Fritz, who is it, Navient for the rest of my life, because I'm an expert in this. I have enough education and training. Like, this is what I'm skilled to do. And so I would really admonish all of my teacher friends, like, now's the time for us to, like, we've got to rise to the occasion, and kind of dig deep, be innovative, be creative, be flexible, be mindful, be attentive, be thoughtful, be all of those things. It kind of awakens, the jovialness, if that's even a word, that used to come with teaching and learning, because now it's like, oh, I get to create my own. I really get to create my own lessons.
Right.
And I know I have to hit it like coming out of the park, because I'm going to have this one opportunity kind of to do it, at 30 minutes or 40 minutes before they go on a break. And, so I don't know. I think we just all need to give ourselves time and just be, understand that this is a partnership. We didn't ask for this. It is much easier to get up and just to greet your friendly faces at the door every day. But this is a learning curve for all of us. Like, and we support. Like, I support parents. Like, I'm a parent too, so I'm trying to figure out what to do with my own child who is actually transitioning to high school. So, like, all of the orientation and all of that stuff, like, she's gonna miss all of that, and so we're on the same boat. And I'm pretty sure that 85% of teachers are parents as well. So, it's kind of hard. We have to we're overly concerned about your children, and we're overly concerned about ours ours too. You know,
Right,
so
right. Most definitely. So I want to just say we got some questions or some
okay,
comments. So I want to
okay.
share that. Thank you, Gianna, for joining us. Gianna says, this was going to be my year where all three of my children were in school. Yes, yes,
Hi.
I can relate to that. Yes. She also said, our local school is now offering virtual for all ages, but we are only signing up our oldest because I'm not seeing how virtual will work for the little ones,
Yes.
kindergarten through third grade.
Hmm.
We will homeschool the youngest because the hands-on is important to us.
Absolutely.
So I can
Absolutely.
definitely relate to that. And I can see how that could be a concern because
Hmm.
many parents are like, while we see the benefits of digital
Hmm.
computers and
Hmm.
just screen time, our kids often already get too much screen time.
Right.
So, how
Hmm.
do you find a balance with that?
Right.
And I think, you know, what our parents, they're like, I don't want to do too much tech stuff, but if they're
Uh-huh.
working, it's really like their fallback. Like,
Right.
go ahead.
Right. Right. I just need like 15 minutes. Like, go ahead and log in. I know that once again, and this is where I call upon my fellow educators to be innovative and to be creative. I'm participating in a virtual camp, um, and I'm teaching. I think I have rising kindergartners to second grade, and we're doing math. And what I had to do, an adjustment I had to make, is I had to do long range planning for these 3 weeks of camp. That's something I would have never done if I were in my regular class, in a regular classroom. And I had to be very thoughtful. You know, I went and I looked at the standards, you know, like I looked at the standards and just kind of figured out like, okay, so now what can I do? And I went and I put together manipulative kits for my lessons. And so whenever I'm talking and I'm teaching and I'm holding up papers and I'm doing all of that, like, you know, they are working with the cube, they're working with the manipulative. That's the hands-on thing. They need that. And so I couldn't kind of assume that me just talking to them for 35 and 40 minutes was going to be enough, or me showing them a 15-minute video on how to grasp some concept or skill would be enough. Like, shame on me as an educator, that's all that I chose to do. um, Irrespective of the ages and stages of development. Like, students do need hands on at all. We do have to look at and address different modalities of learning. Um, all of these things that we spent years learning about, you know, in our traditional schooling, or you know, undergrad or master's or whatever, you know, your terminal degree if you have that. Now it comes into play because this is when all of it becomes necessary. So you have to plan for it. You have to make adjustments for it. You can even share resources. Some parents are in a position where they're able to go, and everybody loves the Amazon. So everybody, you know, some parents are in a position where they can go to Amazon, and if a teacher plans out the first semester, and I say, like, the school will be providing these manipulatives, like these resources. Parents, if you could tonight, we're not buying a bunch of other kinds of school supplies, but it would be nice if you could purchase these four things that, you know, hands-on kinds of tactile kinds of things that we may be using in different points, you know, different points of our instruction. I think it calls on all of us to partner and do something different. Like, we just have to do something different. I would even, you know, tapping into homeschool moms or homeschool co-ops and figure out other resources that you all use in terms of like virtual field trips, different kinds of curriculum. If I am a parent, but if I chose to have my child while she's going to be at home, maybe accelerate, maybe just get her foreign language requirements and things out of the way, and I want to pay for her to take some additional courses, then I can do that. You know, so you know,
Right.
I would reach out to homeschool parents and say, you know, what curriculums are you using? You know, it's almost like an a la carte. It's like we're buffet style with with our teaching and learning experiences. And I think a lot of students will come out better for this because parents are like, we are being forced to be more attentive and to really look at what our kids are doing. I think parents may have discovered areas where their students were probably struggling and they didn't know, like, oh, I need to pay attention to what's happening to my kids, and just not knowing that, I'm dropping them off at 6 o'clock in the morning if they go to before and after care, and then I'm picking them up at 6 o'clock at night. So that's 12 hours. That's half of the day that you're just kind of like, and now it's like you miss that. And so I'm like, is that the frustration? Like, because I know children, as lovely as they are, it can be very aggravating, and you kind of need that break. But we all have to do something different. And so for Gianna and her little ones, kudos to you for being I guess, aware enough to understand, what it is that your own children need at this aging stage. I would maybe suggest that even for the younger one, if the younger one is school aged, go ahead and register him for school if it's free. Like, I don't know if you're going to public school or private school, but go ahead and register him. And then you still maybe can have a little bit of flexibility in terms of, how much time he would spend at this place, in the traditional virtual setting, if that's even a thing, and still supplement, still kind of be in control, but kind of share the responsibility and the task of educating them. And I would say that to any parent, like, do more if you can. You have the time to do it. Do less if you can, and do less if that's what's necessary.
Right. What you just mentioned is something that I personally always wish existed. So for me, it's like, it's bittersweet because I always wanted there to be more options for my kids because my kids were very smart. It's just my pediatrician recommended that I not put them in school because of my daughter's health needs. And so here we are where that recommendation has been expanded to everybody.
Right, to everybody.
So I definitely know it well. And so I look forward to the new options that are going to be out there. There are plenty of different curriculums and different sites. I have a list on my blog. I definitely know a lot about a lot of online resources, but it's really a combination of the things that you do that help children grow and learn. So I love what you mentioned about, that hands-on stuff, because I think that's something that we cannot overlook. Parents, although they may be working, it's not going to be one of those experiences where my kid is in an online school and it's all up to their online teacher to make it happen, to make the learning happen. This is really where that test comes, where we really see how parents really have a role in this in this process. I believe that parents have always had a role and always needed to partner with their kids. But for whatever reason, that hasn't always been the case. And so this is one of those times where it's so much more evident. And so parents are going to have to learn how to navigate both places. And I think you mentioned it earlier where you said you have to ask questions and not assume. And I think that is the key. Not only with your child's teacher and their educators, but also with your job. You have to be honest. You have to set boundaries. You have to really vocalize what it is that your family needs in order to make this work. And I think what is one of the mixed blessings about this is they may not have been willing to understand before, but now but now people
Yeah.
are just going to be more understanding and more
Yeah.
flexible.
Right.
So don't be afraid to identify what
Right.
those needs are. So
Right.
as a parent, you have to look and you have to constantly be studying your kid and their needs and see what you need to apply to that situation to make sure that your child is
Yeah.
learning as best they can.
Right. Yeah. I'm not gonna put my own kid on blast, but I'm like, you're getting ready to go to, and you don't know how to what, like, So, so she's got a lot of things to do this summer too, and in preparation for high school. The other thing that I was thinking about in my particular school district, and with my own child in mind, she's coming from a creative and performing arts school, and so she was there for 9 years. She was there from grade kindergarten to eighth grade, and she plays strings. So she's been playing since kindergarten. Um, and I was blessed because I didn't have to really pay for private music instruction because she got top notch. She got that top notch at school. But now it's like, okay, well, now I got to go buy a cello. Like now, you know what I mean? Like I have to make plans to do those things. I have to make sure that I do more for her in that area to kind of keep those skills up. So I would even say for parents who have students who are transitioning, because everything we're doing is kind of automated. Like, when you roll over after July 1, like you'll be registered at your new school, even though you didn't go there and do that. But take a look as soon as you're able to, take a look at your child's schedule. Send an email, contact your child's guidance counselor or registrar or whomever, and take a look at their schedule. And if there's something that's built, if there's flexibility there, if you were counting on your child being in band because now he's going to be in the fifth grade, then make sure that happens. Go ahead and make sure that he has band on his schedule if you want him to be in band. If you wanted your seventh grader, now she's eligible to take Spanish, and how is she going to do that? Make sure it's on her schedule. I know in my county, the Spanish teachers are still going to work. They're still delivering instruction. Those are things that parents can do to still kind of feel engaged and a part of the plan. Like, don't feel left out because you won't have the opportunity to go face to face. We're still having. I know my principal talked about having virtual. Actually, on a parent call, one of the parents called in a town hall, town hall, and I think there were, I think they said over 14,000 citizens that were participating on this teletown hall phone call. And one of the parents made a suggestion, asking, well, can we get like a little orientation for distance learning before we actually start distance learning, like some virtual training, some workshops, a couple of webinars and things like that. Wonderful idea that came from a parent, So I think that's something that hopefully will happen systemically. If it doesn't happen systemically, I think it's going to happen at my school. So we'll have virtual back to school nights before we actually get back to school, so all those kinds of things. I think make sure that, or even ask, hey, is this school, are you all planning for the teachers to introduce themselves even virtually before school starts? Like ask the question, because we got a lot to think about. It's a lot going on. But if there's a need that you don't feel is being met or you don't think that maybe has been addressed, then just ask a question. Ask a question. The public school, our school is your school too. You know what I mean? So if your students have needs, just ask. Just ask. Use your voice that way. Parents have voice. You have a voice. You have rights, but you also have responsibilities. And I think that we have to be careful how we use our platforms and make sure that they ultimately benefit the students.
Absolutely. And I think that's the key. This is really, the teachers want the best for the students.
Yes.
The parents want the best for the students.
Right.
And so in order to achieve that, everybody's got to work together. Yeah. So we have another comment. Thank you for joining us, Bambi. So the comment says too many parents felt that they did not have a role in public school education or did not want one. I think, definitely some parents felt that way.
Right.
But I think in some cases, parents who possibly may have sent their kids to private schools, they may have felt like, I'm paying for this for a reason.
Right.
You're the educator.
Right.
That's not my job. And so I think those concepts and that
Yeah.
mindset is going to have to shift.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So it doesn't matter if you're paying for it or if you're paying for it by check or if you're paying for it by way of your property taxes. Um, Teaching and learning is the same. Like the process of teaching and learning, the pedagogy behind it, the theories behind it, the access, like it's the same whether you're paying for it or not. And hopefully, in the outcome, the intended outcome, in the objectives are the same. They don't change. I think in my particular public school, I think parents, my principal said, oh, I'm not going to say it. What he said. Someone said, or I've heard it from more than one person, that they kind of treat my public school like a private school. And so they come in there with their demands and their gavels and their letters and their emails, and that's fine. They're using their voice. Same thing that happens in private school. Like, it's still my child. I'm still entrusting you, professional, to educate him or her. And so here are my expectations. What are your expectations? What are my expectations? And really, you already said it. It's the partnership. It's the shared responsibility. Is that Kujichagulia? Which Kwanzaa principle is that? Collective work and responsibility. That's how we're doing this whole school year. Whichever principle of Kwanzaa it is, that's how we're getting through the school year.
Most definitely. So I just, we never have enough time to have the full conversation. But I think what you said definitely will resonate with parents and educators who are listening. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, if you guys have questions, now is the time to put them in the chat. If you want to ask something, definitely put it in the chat. But before we go, I did have a couple quick questions. And one of the questions is, how can parents help middle and high schoolers have a positive e-learning experience? I know for the younger ones, we talked about hands-on. So we already kind of talked about that. But the middle schoolers, this is in some ways going to be harder for the older kids because it's uncharted. And they're like, I've been going to school, 10 years, and I've never had to experience this. And so that transition may actually be harder for the older ones. So do you have any advice for them?
I think just some of the same things. I think parents have a time to have a conversation with your students. Now's the perfect time to explore kind of that, like, what do you want to do when you grow up kind of thing. Take a look at their schedules and see what courses they're scheduled for, particularly electives. Some electives are required, but then you may, in your particular school system, you may have free electives. So you may be able to choose which classes you'd like to take. Look at your schedule. So see if your students have some class that they're actually interested in. Look for other opportunities and other platforms that offer extensions or remediation. I think for high school, we still have career and technical education courses. And so for those students who are entering those tracks, they're still working really hard to make sure that they get that experience, in terms of practicum and field experiences. That may look a little different, but they're still, don't go off track for that, of that course, if that's what your student is really interested in. So take a look at their schedule, look at other platforms that may offer opportunities to extend or to remediate. If you're closer to like 11th to 12th grade, um, use you can do some searches for some web-based programs and platforms like Naviance. There may be a fee for that, but I know in Prince George's County, every middle school student has a Naviance account. And Naviance will, on that, you can take virtual college tours. You can do skills assessments, and then link you to careers. You, Khan Academy is free. You can do SAT prep, like all of those kinds of things that they would kind of get in school, if they're college bound or even if they're career bound. Those kinds of things. It's a wonderful opportunity for students to explore other interests as well. My 13-year-old is a budding business owner, and so she spends all of her free time doing research, researching new products, recipes. Like every week there's something in the Amazon cart like new. Now she's into resin. I don't really know what that is, but she's making. So she's using her time to kind of tap into some personal, just some interest, develop a hobby, a skill, learn something. Learn something. I think that's important for middle and high school students. Like, continue to stay, I guess, like future oriented. Like, if you're a ninth grader, a 10th grader, you're college bound, don't let COVID kind of thwart those plans. Like, stay focused and keep pushing towards your goals. I don't know if that's helpful, but
yes. Most definitely. So I just thank you for just sharing your words of wisdom during this conversation and helping everybody really understand what this is all about. And I think listening to you, I feel more assurance that we got this. We as families, as communities, we can work together. We say the adage, it takes a village. Well, now the village really has to come together and make this work. And so you outlined so many things that will really help the village come together. So I thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for inviting me.
Yes. So in the last few minutes, I just want to tell everybody, if you are interested in listening to other segments, this is actually episode 8 of our live segments. You can go to my blog, cleverlychanging.com, and click on one of the recent blog posts, and you will see links to my YouTube. So youtube.com/cleverlychanging has all of the replays. If you're on my Facebook page, you can look at videos and catch the replays. You can also share this with a friend. Let them know about these conversations so that they can learn as well. So we thank you for joining us. And if you have future questions, definitely feel free, even if you're watching the replay, put replay in the comment section. But if you have other questions and you put them in the comment section, I'm going to continually monitor them. And if you have a question for Marcia, I can share it with Marcia and get an answer for you. So definitely don't be shy, engage, and let other people know. And if you have future topics that you really want me to cover that's related to remote learning, distance learning, online learning, homeschooling, whatever, leave a comment in the comment section so we can help you. This is how, in my world, this is how the village is coming together, because this is what I do. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.